Alrighty, welcome back to another horror film review. And today is going to be, of course, part two of this Wrong Turn series. We've actually got several to go through, so I'm going to try to get them through pretty quick. And they're all pretty fresh on my mind, or at least these two that I'm talking about here. A few I'm going to have to go back and rewatch. But of course, today we are going to be talking about Wrong Turn 2 Dead End. So, again, this is just the kind of basic sort of DVD, 20th Century Fox DVD. I've had this since the movie came out. It used to have a slipcover. I have no idea what happened to it. But, and I love the tagline. It's kind of an alien ripoff. In the forest, only they can hear you scream. I think that's really kind of goofy. And honestly, that kind of sums up the whole plot of this movie, because this movie takes a complete tonal shift from the first movie, which we're going to get into that. But first off, this movie it came out in 2007, I believe. Yeah, 2007, so just a few years after the first film. It was directed by Joe Lynch, and of course, it is, sorry. Sorry, I'm having a slow morning today. It stars Erica Learshon, Texas Battle, freaking Henry Rollins is in this. Kimberly Caldwell is in this. Ken Kersinger is in this. He plays one of the mutants. So we get, and then of course, Wayne Robson comes back from the first film. He plays the old timer at the gas station. So we get a really good cast in this movie. There's a lot of fairly well known names. I'm not sure at the time if they were or not, but Henry Rollins definitely was. But we have a really big cast this time, which of course is definitely going to mean quite a few kills in this movie. Is what we always hope for. But like I said, this movie absolutely almost immediately takes a complete tonal shift from the first movie, whereas the first Wrong Turn was really kind of dark and a little bit more serious. It was trying to be a serious kind of horror movie. This one honestly borderlines on a horror comedy to me, and I don't mean to say that in a bad way. It's very it's actually kind of refreshing, and it's a lot of fun. And this is really the direction that the series starts to go after this. Which I think it's funny because it started out really kind of dark and serious, and then of course it's ended with the most recent Wrong Turn, The Foundation. That one again having nothing to do with any of them, but that one is more of a little bit more serious film, whereas all these in the middle, 2 through Wrong Turn 6, The Last Resort, all of those films kind of have a little bit more of a goofy kind of B-movie feel to them. And again, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. But, so I'll kind of get into, I just want to kind of get into some of my, I guess my personal experience with this movie is I remember when this movie very first came out. It was a really good time in my life. I had a lot of fun. That was really when I was starting to really get into horror movies. I've always watched horror movies, but that, it was around 2006, 2007 when I really started collecting horror DVDs and just picking up anything I could find and watching them constantly. And that is, of course, still carried over into my life now. But I remember this one came on TV all the time. It either came on a Chiller Channel or it was on Sci-Fi Channel all the time. I don't remember. It's honestly hard to think of a time when this wasn't on TV. But I remember catching it on TV all the time. And just the first time I saw it, I really didn't like it because, again, it was such a tonal shift from the first movie. At the time, I really loved the original Wrong Turn, and I still do. But this one, I was like, oh, man, why did they do it like that? But, over the years, I've really grown to appreciate it for what it is, and it actually really makes me happy to watch this movie. It's so much fun. And, of course, the plot is very different, so I'll get into that a little bit now. So the basic premise of this movie is basically about it's about a group of people, and they are competing in a game show that takes place out in the woods, kind of like I guess like Survivor or like Alone or something like that, except it's a lot more. Or there was a show, I don't know if anybody remembers it, but it was called The Colony. It was kind of a post-apocalyptic kind of vibe going on, and they just kind of had to survive, off of what they could find and what they could craft and things like that. So that's kind of what they're going for in this movie. So it's this big group of people. They're and it's a game show. So there's cameras all over the woods. They're all wearing these kind of, I think a lot of them have camera mounts and things like that. And the premise of the show is actually really interesting. I wish we honestly could have gotten this show, and actually seen it. And of course, Henry Rollins is like the host of the show, so he's kind of the spokesperson. He's very extreme. He comes from a military background, but he does such a good job in this movie. He's a great actor. Henry Rollins is normally a vocalist for a few different punk bands, but also he's a great vocalist too. But he does a really phenomenal job at acting in this. I don't know if this was his acting debut or not. It's the first movie I remember seeing him in, and this is the movie I always think of. This is actually anytime I hear of Henry Rollins, this is what I think of. I don't think of his musical career or anything, which I guess is sad. I'm not a big punk fan, but this is what I think of when I hear of Henry Rollins' name. But basically, they're going through with this game show, and things quickly go south, and they start just getting picked off one by one in various very interesting ways. Like, so I don't know if you remember what I said in the last video with Wrong Turn, the original one, where it kind of starts out sort of it starts out really strong, and we get a lot of really badass kills just right out of the gate, and then it sort of tapers off and slows down until we get to the climax. This one really keeps a really nice pace to it. It really just kind of keeps going. We get a lot of really neat kills. The family is, the family dynamic is between the cannibals is explored a lot more, and of course these are completely different cannibals. Or a completely different cannibal family. I guess they're supposed to be in the same family, but they're all different people. Ken Kersinger playing the lead. Ken Kersinger's been in a lot of stuff, but he plays the lead cannibal, Pa. And Three Finger does return. But he's played by a completely different actor, so he looks completely different. But I did like that he was at least returning in this. And of course, like I said, we get the old timer character in this, and I really like, in the original movie, he wasn't, straight up linked to the family. But in this one, we see that he is a member of the family. I guess he is the one who fathered, the original group of these cannibals. And we don't get the one-eye character or the sawtooth character back. We don't get those, so that is kind of unfortunate. But at the same time, I do like who we get. It's a mom, a dad, a mutated mom and a dad, and then two kids, that are also, they're all mutated, and they live in this old paper mill, which is a really nice set. I really like that. And another thing I like about this movie, I don't want to spoil, again, I don't like to spoil anything, but one thing I liked about this is it did kind of a sort of a psycho thing where you think, we start to follow one protagonist, female kind of final girl, and then of course it gets completely swapped around, and it does kind of a Janet Leigh thing. Again, I'm not going to spoil I'm not going to spoil too much, but I really like how we do that. How it kind of subverts your expectations on that, and then of course we do get another flip side, on something else at a later part in the movie. And of course, it is fun having Henry Rollins in this movie because he can actually hold his own. Him coming from his military background, it's fun to see him actually kind of take on the cannibals and actually kind of defend himself. And again, he's such a great actor. He gets some really good little one-liners in this movie that are so fun. The kills in this movie are fun. There's a lot more gore. A lot more people. I don't know if I already said this or not, but a lot more kills. They're a lot more creative. I really like the whole game show aspect. Kind of gone wrong thing. Again, the set is beautiful. In this one. So in the first movie. Of course, they were filming in an actual forest, for, most of it, I suppose. But some of it did look kind of staged, I guess, whereas this one really does kind of look like an actual forest, from what I remember anyway. This one was a little bit more convincing as far as the... And honestly, this feels more like a natural turn for the Wrong Turn series. I don't think it was a wrong turn. I think it was a right turn, if anything. But it goes a lot more with the kind of feeling of this series, and like I said, they kind of keep with this kind of goofy, almost slapstick, kind of thing in a way, throughout the rest of the series. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. We're going to get into that another time. This one also has some really interesting music. I think it's mostly just stock music, if I remember correctly, but it's still fun and it really fits the whole vibe of this movie. And honestly, that's the best way I can really sum up this movie. Is it's just fun. It's a good time. It's one to just, if you want to watch a silly, goofy slasher film, set out in the woods with a mutated cannibal family, put this one on. It's a great time. It's not nearly as serious as the first film. The first film, I still definitely feel like kind of stands on its own, just like the last film in the series kind of stands on its own. But from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of those kind of, well, I have some things to say about 6, but all of those really kind of feel like they're in the same same series, whereas the first film and the last film really stand alone. They kind of bookend it. And another thing I like about this too is the way that this one leaves off. It kind of sets up the third one, and I like that they kind of keep with the continuity, because in a series like this you wouldn't expect there to be a strong continuity, but between this film and the next film, they actually do kind of keep a little bit of that continuity going, more so than they even have in like Halloween and Friday the 13th, and it's just a small thing, it's nothing, extreme, but I really like that they did it that way. I like the recurring, the grandpa character. I really like him. He's great. He actually gets a lot more dialogue, and he's a lot more fleshed out in this film than he was in the first film, which I really like. I love Henry Rollins. He's a great time. I love the rest of the cast. They're not the best actors by any means, but they're doing a great job, and they're so much fun to watch. And some of them are so stupid and just entertaining to see. It's great time. I can't say enough about this movie. Like I said, I used to not like this movie at all, but it always kind of warms my heart anytime I put this movie on. It just takes me back to a simpler time whenever I was younger, and and was just now kind of getting into horror movies. And this movie always kind of puts a smile on my face. It's always a good time to a good watch. Of any time of year, any time of day, it's definitely a good one to check out. It's one for me that I like to kind of throw on just in the middle of the day when I'm doing stuff around the house, and just have this one kind of play, and just kind of let it do its own goofy thing. That's kind of how I like to watch this one, is just kind of have it on in the background. It's just so much fun. I can't recommend it enough, but again, if you are a huge fan of the first movie and you really like that tone of the first movie, you will probably dislike this movie, because again, it completely shifts away from that, a lot goofier. But if you're like me and you like some diversity in there, then this one you will enjoy a lot. And if you really like kind of over-the-top kind of goofy, some over-the-top goofy kind of kills, you'll like this one a lot, in that aspect. It reminds me a little bit of... It almost reminds me a little bit of Hatchet, which, it came out the year after Hatchet came out, of course, which, if you know me, I love some Hatchet. I love Victor Crowley. But this movie really kind of reminds me of Hatchet a little bit. Not that it has anything to do with it, but just in tone-wise, that's just what it makes me think of every time I watch this movie. I'll watch this sometimes, and then it'll make me want to watch Hatchet again. But anyway, now I'm just kind of rambling. But absolutely check this one out. I highly recommend it. Again, I'm going to skip the rating in this video because I'm going to rank them all at the end. So you'll see which ones are my favorite, if you can't tell just by the way I talk about them. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for the next video, which will be Wrong Turn 3 Left 4 Dead. And until next time, I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.